About some of my favorite essays, argument essays. This is from chapter 11 in your textbook. So, what is an argument essay? It's an essay that takes a stand on a debatable issue, and your goal is to convince others to side with you. The key elements of it is your thesis statement. That's like the heart and soul of an argument essay because it states your position and then also like all the stuff in the top that and this. Also, a key element is going to be your evidence, your facts, your examples, your research, your expert opinions, whatever it may be. And then logical reasoning, ensuring that whatever you're saying is just grounded in logic and that if somebody's reading it, they're not going to think, oh my gosh, this person doesn't know what they're talking about, that they're going to see you as an authority in it. So do not think that argument essays mean that you are like having a conflict with somebody. You are arguing your point. Suitable topics. Discuss some examples, and there's some examples also in your lesson topics. Should minimum wage be guaranteed or even raised? That's fun. Is the death penalty constitutional? Should online education replace traditional classrooms? Should the legal drinking age be lowered? Do we need stricter gun laws? How should illegal immigration be addressed? You can see these are like hot topics, right? So it's important if you choose one of these hot topics for your argument essay that you have a strong stance on it and that you have the data and the examples to back up your stance. And of course, choose topics with at least two sides that can be debated. So again, we're going to be using the test method. We are going to ensure that we have a thesis that is extremely strong and states our main idea, our position, and just very briefly, all the stuff that supports our position. We are going to then go into our body paragraphs which have evidence. So we're going to ensure that we have facts and examples or more to ensure we are making our point known and kind of convincing us. At the end, we're going to have a summary that kind of reinforces our arguments. And throughout all, we're going to have transitions. Those transitional words are really important when we go from here. So let's talk about types of evidence and argument methods. Facts are evidence. These are things that can be verified. For example, the current federal minimum wage is blah, blah, per hour, whatever it may be. That is a fact. Like, nobody can argue against that because it's true. But in your argument essay, you're probably going to be using some opinions as well. Yes, there is a fact about the minimum wage. However, raising the minimum wage would benefit the economy. And then bringing in some expert opinions from research is going to do more to bolster your authority on the topic. According to economist Dr. Smith, a higher minimum wage reduces employer turnover. So that's really important too, because that benefits the economy. So when you're doing an argument essay, it's extremely important to make sure you have your facts straight, your opinions on those facts straight, and then find reputable sources to support your opinion. So there are two types of arguments, inductive versus deductive. And you're going to just naturally do this as we can with essay, but it's important to know what it's called. Inductive moves from the specific to the general. So it's a very specific to wider. So it's going to start with like some observations and then it's going to lead to a conclusion. So an example would be, I'm seeing these challenges faced by these disabled students. That's really specific. So because I'm seeing this, I'm going to conclude that more accommodations are needed. So that's very general. Whereas deductive is moves from the general to the specific. So it starts with like a major statement, like more accommodations are needed for physically disabled students, and it goes into a specific example by I've had a student in my classroom, my son, my daughter, whoever it may be. Some other examples would be all workers deserve a living wage. That's a general statement, right? And then a specific would be minimum wage workers are workers, they work hard, and the minimum wage should be increased for them because they also deserve a standard of living. The structure of an argument essay is extremely similar to everything we've talked about so far. We always have an introduction with a thesis statement. We have our body paragraphs. The topic sentences of each body paragraph should support that thesis. Within the body paragraphs, we should have definitely bringing up your evidence, your reasoning, your expert opinions. But before you leave the essay, it's always really good to address someone who with disability. We might say, some may say increasing the minimum wage would cripple our economy. However, blah, blah, and you bring in the side, of your. The conclusion, restate the thesis, summarizes the key points, and has a final thought of call to action. So if we're talking about increasing the minimum wage, maybe you can, and you're for it, maybe you could say something like, if I was an extremely important to our economy, to a standard of living, writing your state representatives with your stance on this would be a problem. So as I briefly touched on, it's important to address opposing arguments. So definitely say, yes, there is another side to this. The other side says, increasing the minimum wage would cripple our economy. However, then you're going to repeat what they say using factual facts. Economists say blah, blah, blah. Any inconsistencies in their arguments you could point out. But either way, the whole point is to convince people of your stuff. So one example of a nice way to say it would be, well, opponents may argue, X or B. This view fails to consider Y. So if I'm still using that minimum wage thing, I would say, well, opponents argue increasing the minimum wage will cripple our economy. This view fails to consider the human aspect of increasing our standard of living. Effective use of transitions and argument essays indicate introduction of points using first, second, finally. Indicate contrast with however, on the other hand, nevertheless. Show cause and effect with therefore, consequently, and thus a result. Concede point. So that's kind of the other side of that. Admittedly, it would cost our economy, companies more to increase the minimum wage. However, blah, blah, blah. And then emphasize, especially in the conclusion, in fact, certainly, and be. So, tips for writing a strong argument considered. Choose something that you are passionate about. If you don't care about whatever the topic is, then whoever reads your essay is either. Look up some stats and facts to support whatever it is you're arguing about before you get going on step 3, which is organizing your thoughts in an outline and creating that thesis statement. Make sure you're using credible sources, that it's not just Joe Schmo down the blog or Sally writing a blog. It's somebody that is on authority on whatever it is, or to the government script. And cite them properly. They say in a CNN article from XYZ date. Address opposing viewpoints fairly, so make sure that you're still respectful of these opposing viewpoints. Don't say anything like, some may say increasing the minimum wage should cripple the economy, but they don't know what they're talking about. Use logical reasoning to support your claims, and this is where steps 8 and 9 can become one of them. Make sure you have someone else read your evidence and give tips and feedback as well. And then make sure your tone remains respectful. Which is an academic essay. We want to make sure that we are using academic language so we're all going to put it down. So that, my friends, is argument essays, and let me know if you have any questions.